Today we've got a nasty inheritance. We'll get into that in a bit, but first, oh, you think that's loud, do you? Yesterday, my husband was using an edger in the yard. Our crabby harpy neighbor screamed my name from the other side of the fence until he turned it off. When I inquired as to what she wanted, she asked if we were chopping down a tree because the noise was so loud. She had just gotten out of her car and was walking from the garage to the house, so we weren't disturbing her in her yard. She just likes to complain about every little thing. Minutes later, I heard my husband mumble something about making noise as he dragged out the power washer. He then proceeded to wash the entire outside of the house, making sure to do an extra thorough job on the side closest to this neighbor and taking his sweet time. As long as this guy wasn't doing it at like 6:30 a.m., you're gonna be pretty much okay almost any day of the week. And here's the thing, I live in a place that gets hot quick. Just about the only reasonable time to do yard work is like between 7 to 9 a.m. I can only imagine the nightmare it would be living next to a neighbor like that if he had to do something. Groovy Mama 98 wrote, "Yard work is necessary. It requires tools. Tools make noise. Your husband sounds like mine. His opinion is if you want to go off on a power trip concerning yard tools, he has all the power he needs to send you on your way." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy awesome stories of revenge, it would be awesome if you left a like or left a review if you're listening to my podcast. That said, our next story is Cut Me Off at the Passport Control. You'll have to wait for me to suit up. I was traveling by my motorcycle to another country. Motorcycle is internationally considered an uncomfortable transport. I'm basically a pedestrian on two wheels, and it means I can legally bypass any car lined at the border and go first. You can sit and relax in your car, turn heating or AC on. I can't do that. It was a national holiday in my country, so lots of cars waiting to cross the border. I'm the only motorcycle in line. I bypass them all and stand waiting for the barrier to open. They normally allow 5 to 8 cars at once. A woman in the car behind me starts yelling that I'm a bench, that they waited for hours and hours and she'll report me to the police. Good luck with that. I'm allowed to do what I did. I ignore her and turn the music volume higher. Barrier opens, we drive in, including her, and while I stand down, remove my helmet and gloves, she jumps out of her car and runs to the passport control staff. Only one booth is open, so it's logical to the person standing first in line to go first, and everyone normally does exactly that. Cars which are behind simply can't bypass anyone who's in the front, at least at this exact border. She gets her leaving the country stamp, triumph in her eyes as she looks at me. She goes back to her car like the Queen of England. I patiently wait for her to finish, get my passport stamped, go to my bike, show my bags to officers checking illegal goods. Everything is fine, I can go. The woman behind is given green as well. Then I start dressing up. I put on my helmet. Oh, sorry, I forgot my balaclava. I put helmet off, balaclava on, helmet on. Something isn't right. Helmet off. I straighten my balaclava. Helmet on. Gloves. Oh crap, now I can't lock my helmet. Gloves off. Helmet locked. Gloves on. Now it's difficult to fish my keys out of my pocket. Gloves off. Key into ignition. Gloves on. Checking my bags to be locked. Tires for good measure. Okay, I'm good. Let me go to the next border. At the next border crossing into my destination country, she was a sweetheart waiting for me to get my stamp. As a result, I was quick as flash putting my gear on. I'm not that vindictive. To be fair, if you're waiting in some super long line trying to get across the border and somebody because they're on a motorcycle, or even multiple people just get to keep jumping in line and it feels like it makes it take forever, I mean, I get it, but it would be kind of frustrating, would it not? Chimo Enger wrote, I get where she's coming from. The idea that a motorbike gets to jump the line wouldn't occur to me. OP responded saying, I get that too, and if she just asked, I would have explained. She probably did ask the officers, I don't know about that. They would have told her that it's perfectly normal. They sometimes step in if there are a lot of motorcycles, or we just regulate ourselves not to cut 50 bikes ahead of everyone. Our next story is, you are now using my backscratcher to serve your pasta. I have one of those plastic spaghetti spoons, you know, with those claws and with holes in the middle, and it recently got broken and I've been using it as a backscratcher, so it's usually somewhere in the region of the couch. Yes, I clean it daily, so some annoying friends of my boyfriend came over for dinner. He thinks they're okay, but he's not subtle, so doesn't pick up on social clues. The girl is more annoying than the guy, but they're both condescending as freak, so she walks in, sees my backscratcher, and squeals. I really don't have another word for it. Ooh, someone got distracted doing the dishes. Better put this in its proper place. Dear reader, I was planning to give them spaghetti and meatballs. What happened next was satisfying as freak. We sit down, and because I haven't replaced my back scratcher yet, I was serving spaghetti with a large fork. The girl sighs dramatically, gets up, and takes my back scratcher from the drawer and starts serving everybody spaghetti. I refuse and use a fork, also for my boyfriend. She keeps sighing and finally asks, "Why are you so adamant on doing things your way, even to the point that you can't accept me serving spaghetti the normal way?" Keeping dumb, I ask to explain what the normal way to serve pasta is. She sighs, rolls her eyes, and waves my back scratcher in front of my eyes and says, "Like, you don't know how to use this?" I said, "I use that as a back scratcher because it's broken. That's why it was beside the couch." She started laughing it off until my husband said, yes, that is what she uses it for. Be passive-aggressive in my house at your own risk." So I imagine it actually would make a pretty good back scratcher. My question is, how was it broken? Because she went and picked it up and said, "Oh, somebody must have just not put this back," and then also started using it not realizing it was broken. It's a pretty gross revelation, but was it just like one of the prongs was chipped and OP just decommissioned it because of that, even though it still probably was usable? Sharkbait5 wrote, "Spaghetti spoon makes a great back scratcher, and I keep a cheap one outside the kitchen for just this purpose too. I discovered this while pregnant and never looked back." Our next story is, didn't get paid from a painter from Craigslist, so I set my computer to auto-dial his phone for 3 days. Years ago, when there was only flip phones, I worked for a week for this guy off Craigslist, 8 or 10-hour days for 7 days straight. He dropped off $37 at my house with a nasty note saying I was a crappy painter and didn't even deserve the $37. I can't remember my hourly rate, but I know it was more than a few cents an hour. So the student mentioned he had arguments with his girlfriend about constantly calling and leaving messages because he would still incur a charge. So my buddy had a PC with a modem and set it up to dial the guy's phone for 3 days and leave a message for 2 seconds and hang up, then redial. I wish I knew what his bill was by the end. Stories like this just make me really glad that we've gotten a little bit better as far as phone plans go in general. Back when you had to actually count the minutes you had to actually per text pay. I guess the only bonus of that era is it was still a little bit in the, okay, I'm off of work, or okay, I'm home from school, I can actually disconnect from society and just not expect to be reached 24/7. Wolfgang239 wrote, "I did something like this once. Back when payphones were still around and pagers were the in thing, my dad had a handyman business. He would get charged each time someone paged him, so he only gave the number to special clients. One day he comes home and he is fuming mad. He says that he got a page and pulled over to use a payphone and called the number expecting it to be one of his clients. It was not. It was someone who set up an auto dial on their own PC and would call pager numbers and would put in a number. When you called the number, it was an advertisement for their company. It would play the advertisement and then say, 'Leave a message if you want more info.' I told Dad that we will light fire with fire, and I set up my PC to call that number on repeat, and when it answered, it would play a sound file. 'You are an idiot, ha ha ha.' I set it to repeat, and we went out to dinner. When we came back a couple of hours later, the computer was getting a busy signal when dialing. I filled up that guy's answering machine. I waited a few days and called the number again and left a message that said if he ever auto-dials people's pagers again, I'll make sure his number never can be used. And I'll even call his main line for his company and fill that up. You cost people money when you do that." Our next story is 401k with a side of revenge. Someone suggested I post the story over here. Enjoy. When our first child was born, my ex forced me to quit my job. When our second child was 2, I found out about his affair. By then, he was extremely verbally, emotionally, and sometimes physically abusive. When he abused our firstborn, I put him out. That was in 2012. I couldn't afford daycare to work and had no family support. He refused to give me any money to take care of the kids, saying, "The courts haven't ordered me to give you a dime." He lied to the bank and had my accounts frozen and even assaulted me when I filed for default in the divorce. The judge finally ordered him to pay child and spousal support 6 months after I kicked him out. It was $2,562 a month. He refused to pay it until the garnishment kicked in, and by then he was $6,000 behind in support. I used that to get permission to move away. I remarried a year after the divorce. I checked the court docs and there was a little box that said spousal support stopped upon remarriage if that box was checked. It wasn't checked, so I figured I was good. Instead of filing for his retirement, I just took that year of spousal support, $12,000, and left it alone. Spousal support was only ordered for 2 years. In 2017, he filed for sole custody of the kids out of nowhere. That was when he found out I had remarried and he'd paid spousal support to me during the first year of my marriage. I told him that I took that money instead of filing for my share of his retirement. I said if he let me keep that $12,000, I wouldn't file to split his 401k. He demanded that I repay the spousal support. The judge ordered me to repay it, but increased child support and deducted the repayment from that. It ended up that I got an extra $20 a month and he repaid himself. He dropped his bid for custody in exchange for 2 extra weeks in summer. I pursued the retirement account split. He refused to cooperate and dragged it out for 4 years. It was so bad they sanctioned him and he had to pay me $600 a month for a year in addition to child support. They also charged him with contempt. In January 2021, he proposed to his girlfriend. In May of 2021, I finally got the disbursement from his 401k. I won't say how much it was, but it was about 4 times the amount of spousal support overpayment. I had no idea it would be that much. I had thought it would be around $12,000, which is why I thought keeping that year of spousal and not filing for his retirement account was a fair trade. Had he not tried to take the kids from me, I never would have filed to split the account. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. His fiancée emailed me recently and told me it's my fault he won't marry her because I cleaned out his retirement account. She said I shouldn't have stolen his money. I told her that I gave him the option to let me keep that year of spousal support or take it back and I could file for his retirement. He chose to have me file for his retirement. I told her that if he really wanted to marry her and protect his assets, they could get a prenup so he wouldn't have to worry about it. She said she shouldn't have to sign a prenup because I robbed him. I never asked to be financially dependent on him. He clearly indicated he wanted a court order to take care of his kids, so I got him one. I tried to be fair and take the lesser amount by taking the spousal support and not filing for his retirement. He wouldn't let me. In summary, my ex refused to pay me until support orders dropped, refused to pay until they revoked his license, tried to get me in trouble for accepting spousal support overpayment, and in the end it cost him a lot of money out of his 401k. Is it wrong of me to feel like he did get a little bit screwed over by the judge when they said, "Oh, you did pay $12,000 in overpayment. Here, let me increase the child support and give you a discount"? Like, is there anybody in that situation that's feeling like, "Oh, that's definitely saving me $12,000 in the long run"? I'm kind of curious if you guys think a prenup should be necessary, or if the mere mention of it is such a red flag of the person that it's not even worth pursuing. Our next story is, my landlord got not exactly what he deserved, but it sure was a rough ride for him. I had a landlord who was pretty absent. I lived in this building, a high-rise, like 20 stories, for 10 plus years. He, despite living next door to me, was absent and cold personally, but cool enough. Rent was good. Our agreement was to never bother him about anything unless it's an absolute emergency. Shower head wonky? Go buy a new one. Fridge breaks? Get it fixed, or dude, just buy a new one. Take it out of what you pay in rent. Lose the receipt. I don't care. I know more or less what a fridge costs. Just take it out of rent. Finally, his wife decides she wants more rent, wants to rent the place out as an office, not legal, and wants us out ASAP. I agree to move out a month early and get a month's rent back plus deposit. Complete 180 on their part. The place is ruined. Can't give you crap until you fix all this stuff. 2 main things. My cats did scratch up the leather legs of the dining table, and the pull-up bar made 2 dents in the door frame of the kitchen, which was quite nice hardwood. They come to me with this list of tons of stuff like, "Oh, you hanged a photo frame here. This tile is slightly chipped." This is the busiest work time of the year for me, but I'm trying to be cooperative. Sure, I got the table legs re-leathered, spackled the photo frame wall hole. Can't do anything about the door frame. Take it out of the deposit, patch the tile, like dozens of little everyday wear and tear things. Like, you want me to change the window screens? These are all new screens and in nicer shape than when I moved in. But I did them all. I trusted the guy. Gotta get my money. At the end, he should have been giving me 24,000 renminbi, around 2,500 British pounds. He gave me 5, around 540 British pounds. I still need to use the money to fix all that stuff. If you can't accept the 5, I can't give you anything at all. I was super ticked off, but took the 5. Now, people in the building are gossipy. I don't participate, but I did tell this one older lady about my frustration. She told everyone. The wife went from being the star of the mommies group of the building to nobody wanting to talk to her. People shunned the guy too. I originally told them I was planning on moving to another city, but an opportunity came up and I ended up renting a similar unit in the same building. So they thought they could just screw me over and not have to see me, but now they still did. Often. A year later, the office calls me with some questions about how to do something with the floor heating. I go, door frame is not fixed, still has dents. I call the guy like, what the heck, man? And he tells me to mind my own business. 5 years later, I see the light at my old place is still on at 3 a.m. Huh, that's odd. I go to check. The door is open, and the place is just trashed, ruined. Cabinets broken, stuff on the walls written lazy landlord, and the dents on the kitchen door frame are still there. So the guy never fixed anything, just kept my money. By this time, smartphones were popular and we had a chat group for the whole building, so about 500 people. I took pictures and posted everything. Apparently, he had also nicked these people's deposit, and there was a huge ruckus when they trashed the place. Cops called. All these people chime in with complaints and pictures. People smoking in the hallways, leaving leaky rubbish outside the front door. Videos of people using foul language in front of children, dirty footprints. He got fined a lot for 1, creating a public disturbance, 2, degrading the quality of the living space, 3, illegally renting a residence as an office, and to top it off, the building management wouldn't grant him permission to have workers in to fix the place. So it sat there empty for like 6 months. The fines were big too. Take around a month and a half's rent from me, lose a year's rent. Suck it, bro. This obviously is one of the potential nightmares you have when it comes to renting, let alone the countless tales of people who actually manage to get some kind of decent deal, or at least like a market rate deal, and are immediately spun around and told, oh, by the way, I'm going to need X% more per month, market rate and whatnot. Or they come up with some nonsense. Oh, because they opened a Ben & Jerry's a few blocks over, the market value of this place is skyrocketed. Therefore, we're going to need X% more in rent monthly. Would you like to commit those thousands of dollars to your annual lease? Taprani wrote, renting in China. To get our bond back, I went to the agent's office and refused to leave until they paid. Was there for hours. After a screaming match, I had to walk with them to the ATM to get it. Another former tenant was there chasing their bond as well. The agency was trying to claim their whole bond for damages done to the tenant's personal items after the apartment flooded from a broken pipe in the wall. Our next story is, put your carts away, people. You can probably guess where this is, going by the title. I myself have heard plenty of stories about inattentive shoppers just leaving their carts smack dab in the middle of Walmart parking lots, or even worse, right behind cars. Well, I just witnessed my first of these not quite rare breeds. The woman had unceremoniously shoved the cart off to the side as she went inside her vehicle. While it wasn't left behind my car specifically, I felt the civil duty to fight for those who couldn't, and I casually pulled the cart into place behind the offending car as I walked by. Now, I wasn't trying to hide it exactly, and I was half expecting to be yelled at for it, but I didn't hear a word. It was as I placed my own goods in my car a couple spots down that I heard a small bang and a rattle of a cart being pushed. She had backed into the cart. It wasn't nearly hard enough to cause any real damage. Maybe a scratch if she was especially unlucky, but it was still better revenge than I was expecting. Please put your carts back, people. Unless you've got like an emergency or a condition that makes it extremely hard to walk to the cart return, and let's be real, most of the cart returns are usually pretty conveniently located, then I think it's an impressively lazy thing to leave the cart there, or the classic put 2 wheels up on the curb. I must admit, I'm not the biggest go-getter, but even still, something I try to keep in my mind is, if I can do it in 1 minute or less, just do it. then it's done. Like loading the dishwasher, that can't take possibly more than a couple minutes at most. Putting the grocery cart back, at most it's what, a 10-second walk to the cart return? Mr. Torque wrote, I once witnessed a woman's discarded cart rolling towards someone's truck and raced to stop it. I yelled at her and she saw I had the cart and said, "Good, you can put it back." I flipped it sideways on the ground under the back of her car and jammed it. She started backing up and I just walked away. Our next story is, today I made sure a pricing error did not occur. I was at Home Depot earlier today making a quick run for some supplies for my current home renovation. I was picking up cement board and some various materials to trench power to a breakfast counter that will be installed in our kitchen. I had one of the big wallboard carts that I was cruising around with, being careful and cautious of others the whole time, so the trip was a bit frustrating as there is a lot of stopping and waiting to allow crowds to pass so I can safely maneuver without bumping into anyone or anything. It's not a big deal and it was to be expected, but I'm only mentioning this part to set the stage that by the end of my 30-minute endeavor, that could have been much quicker had I not needed this cart, I may have been in a different mindset by the time I got to the checkout. So I have all of my supplies and just need the cement board now, so I head on over to the wallboard aisle. Funny enough, it's totally chaotic. There's a middle-aged guy, his elderly father, and late 20-something son, and we're loading sheetrock in a way that was taking the whole width of the aisle. So I had to go down another aisle to get around them. I'd usually just bring my cart up against the stack and pull off the amount I need. It's quite quick with multiple hands. Additionally, they had pulled 2 sheets down and let them land on a flatbed cart, which doesn't work. It simply won't fit. They had left that out in the middle of the aisle to get the more appropriate cart, apparently. I carefully move the flatbed off to the side so it's out of the way of the aisle, and get to work with loading the cement board. I have a sheet in my hand, and the youngest of that crew decides he needs to get somewhere quick and awkwardly walks really close behind me, making it so I can't maneuver the sheet onto my cart. No biggie, I just hold it awkwardly till he passes, which was just another oddity that further set the stage for me. I finally finish and head over to the pro checkout. I get over there, and there's 2 guys being wrung out with a cart. The employee checking them out appears kinda newish. He's a younger guy that seemed to be struggling with one of their items or something, but I wasn't going to try to haul my cart full of 12 sheets of cement board over to a regular checkout, and it wasn't a big deal. So I wait patiently, and these guys finally go to swipe their card, and this is where things get spicy. The dream team from the wallboard aisle start walking up with a large cart of drywall they were struggling to work through in the aisle, along with some additional items. The middle-aged guy awkwardly walks in front of me and takes a hold of the cart that was with the guys at checkout, and it all clicks. That cart didn't belong to the 2 guys at checkout. The older guy brings his cart loaded with 12 sheets of sheetrock and passive-aggressively moves diagonally in front of me to cut me off. I'd like to think I'm a nice guy, but I was over it at this point. The middle-aged guy looks at me in the eyes and I say, "Man, I like your style. I wasn't aware we can reserve spots in line at the pro checkout. I feel dumb having just stood here for 5 minutes." He shrugs and says, "I was just here. I had to get more things." I shook my head and let it go. The employee starts checking them out and goes through the first cart. He gets to the sheetrock and asks, "How many is that, 6? And the old guy immediately says, "Yes, 6. Here's the thing with sheetrock. It's always bought in bulk 99% of the time, and it's transported in pairs to keep it from easily snapping in transit. If you need to buy one, you have to rip the tear strips off that bind them together, but they're rung up individually." I let the employee get through the rest of the items and hit the total buttons so they could see what it came out to, then immediately pounced. "Excuse me, sir." They pause and the cashier turns to me. "You're ringing out only 6 sheets of drywall, but there's actually 12 there." The old guy snaps at me and says, "They're sold in pairs." I look at him and respond, "No, sir, you're mistaken. I can show you on the app that they're definitely sold individually and the cashier can get confirmation of it from his supervisor if needed." The middle-aged guy looks at me again and I give him a big smile and say, "I'm sure it was an honest mistake, but I'm glad I was here to help fix it." The cashier adjusts his mistake and the bill goes up about $80. I gave them a smile as they left. Nobody likes a line cutter. This guy deserved it, and I bet next time, well, he may still cut in line, but he'll probably make sure that he doesn't have anything that can get called out on. Really Forgot wrote, "I mean, if they hadn't cut in line, they would have been behind you. You wouldn't have seen. Their fault and well done." Opie responded saying, "Yep, That's why I made the little dig about being glad I was there to fix it. Our next story is, my mom passed without a will and her husband kept all the inheritance for my grandpa, so I messaged everyone he knows and told them. My mom passed away last year, the day before my birthday, after over 5 months of suffering. She didn't know how bad she was, and then it was too late to make a will. She even mentioned this to me the last time I saw her, a couple of weeks before she passed. She apologized to me and even said that since her husband was getting it, I probably wouldn't see a penny of it. Because of the state she passed in, all the inheritance went to her husband. I was on good terms with him and he agreed to share half of it with me, to my surprise. It was nice to know I could trust him, and he was the only thing left I had that was connected to my mother. All my other family passed away, so I'm all on my own. After many months of going back and forth with him and trying to figure out when he would send me the money, I realized he was lying to me. He kept giving me excuses and stories about how he'd send it to me tomorrow, next week, next month. It never stopped. At one point, he told me he had a relative in Europe that left him $1 million, and if I could just wait until he got that, he would double what he told me he would give me. Finally, I had enough being jerked around and I told him I thought he was lying. He blocked my number. There was nothing I could do. Or was there? It's not much, but I realized that while I could not see his friends list on Facebook, I could see all his posts where his friends commented. I could see all the birthday wishes left on his profile. So I went to all of those people and sent them a carefully crafted message about what happened and how much money he got. The thing about my mom's husband is that their whole relationship, he was dealing with issues his brother caused when their father passed, and the brother stole the power of attorney and stole all of the inheritance. All of his friends and family have been hearing stories about how crap his brother is and how he was going to pay. Now this man is doing to me what his brother did to him. Even if his friends don't care about him being a bad person, maybe they would be interested in knowing how much money he got. I've heard stories about people winning the lottery and how all their friends and family turned on them. I'm hoping he'll get some crap from some people, and even more people contacting him with their hands out. I hope he ends up with no one on his side, so he'll know how I feel being on my own. Honestly, I think this just highlights how if you know you have multiple people that you could pass your things on to that you want to have them, it's a really good idea to consider getting a will just in case, especially if you have kids or you're starting to get a little bit older. Okay, anything 9966 wrote, nicely done. I hope karma truly does sort him out and give him what he deserves. I'm so sorry for your loss. Losing a parent sucks, and as one grieving adult child to another, I wish you so much peace and happiness. OP responded saying thank you. I'd also lost my brother about a year before my mom passed, so it's the whole family. I really felt like he was the only one I had left, and I thought it was nice he was going to take care of me since I wasn't his kid, but I'd known him since I was a teen. I'm sorry for your loss too. Life is not a game on easy mode, that's for sure. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy revenge story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.